The Nigerian Labour Congress is threatening to lead a mass protest of Nigerians against the planned increase of electricity tariff by the federal government. President Joe Ajaero issued the warning in a communique at the end of its National Executive Council meeting in Yola over the weekend. He describes the action as a systemic exploitation of electricity consumers as well as Nigerians. Well, the union's threat comes barely a week after the Minister of Power, Adebayo unveiled plans to migrate B and C consumers to Band A with an attendant tariff hike.
Right, with us in the studio is the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Joe Ajaero, and at our overflow studio is electricity market analyst, Elatuyi. Thank you, both of you gentlemen, for joining us on Newsnight. But let me start with you, NLC president. I mean, you've rejected plans by the federal government to revise the electricity tariffs. But what the government is saying that the disparity, the gap between Band A, which is the highest. I mean, Band A gets 20 hours per day, while Band B gets up to 16 hours. While Band A pays 209 naira per kilowatt, hour. The Band B guys pay 63 naira per kilowatt. And they're saying it's not fair, that what is important is, for this disparity to be closed, that gap to be closed. Mr. Joe Ajaero.
Yeah, even this issue of banding is fraudulent because none of the bands get it in the number of hours. And they are made to pay the same amount that is given to them. Besides that, you don't pay if you are not metered. Now you ask somebody that is on Band A, and then there is no meter for you to measure whether he got 20 hours or not. And you ask somebody that is on Band B, and all of a sudden you move the person to Band A. So why don't we look at it that everybody, in the country, just before this banding arrangement, which was fraudulent, that people are metered. If you consume for 20 kilowatt hours, you pay. The number you consume, the number you use, you pay. Rather than Band A, Band B, Band C. It's not making sense because even there is no way to measure, the number of hours you are given. If in a month you are given even 10 hours. As far as you are tagged as being in Band A, you will still pay for that amount. So I think there is no need for it. This issue of banding, and then now moving people, you say you give them 6 hours or 10 hours, moving them to Band A, when there is no stability. Okay, you ask yourself, how many megawatts of power are we generating that is now moving people on Band B to Band A? Is it that power has improved? Are we still on the same?
But have you carried out any independent research to find out if indeed this Band A are getting up to 20 hours and Band B getting 16 hours?
Heck no.
What have you been able to find out?
Heck no. The resistance is not because, even if they are getting 24 hours of electricity, that's their right in a country like ours. Somebody is not supposed to be given 24 hours and then you clap for the person. They have the duty to give every Nigerian 24 hours power supply. So to succumb to this, give me Band B, give me Band C, is to play a second fiddle. Who informs them that I want 6 hours? Is it by choice?
All right, let's bring in Mr. Elatuyi into this conversation. Mr. Elatuyi, I believe you've been listening to the president of the NLC. See, the federal government often cites cost-reflective tariffs as necessary for sustaining the power sector. But here, Labour is saying, it's a right to give 24-hour supply, but is power really cheap? Is it cost-reflective in Nigeria? And do you buy into the government's argument?
Thank you. There has been a debate over the time whether electricity is a commodity or a social good. So should it be treated as a commodity that has to be paid for, or should it be treated as a social good? So it depends on the policy of the federal government. So in our case, it is quite obvious that without sounding insensitive to the plight of Nigerians that are going to pay the cost-reflective tariff now. One thing is evident, the government does not have money to pay subsidy again. Last year, the subsidy for electricity tariff was around 3 trillion naira, but barely 450 billion naira was provided for as subsidy, was cash backed. So, and in this year, in 2025 budget, I think we have subsidy provision of about 705 billion naira, when our tariff shortfall, which is subsidy, is about 2.3 trillion naira. So this is the reality on ground, and it's quite painful. So the government is just saying that there's no money for subsidy again. So as such, customers that are under Band B and Band C now have to pay what is cost-reflective tariff. Because if you deconstruct our tariff, you will discover that if you look at the generation cost, which today stands at about 112 naira, that is what it costs to generate electricity, 1 kilowatt, just 1 kilowatt unit of electricity. And if you look at the tariff for Band B, is about 68 or 63 naira. So the government is covering for the shortfall. But the challenge is that this is not cash backed. And when this is not cash backed, that impairs the liquidity in the market and the ability of the generation companies to go into capacity expansion. We believe we have about 13,500 installed capacity, but what we have as available generation capacity in the country now is barely 6,000 megawatts. So we may end up one day and we will not have any generators running because of the fact that the gencos are not being paid what they're supposed to be paid. So, and there's this general belief that maybe the tariff is being, there's tariff increase. So the narrative has to be right. The conversation has to be framed very well. Yeah, it is subsidy removal because government does not have money to pay subsidy for electricity consumers again, and it's quite unfortunate.
Yes,
a deep sigh by the NLC presidents there.
Okay, so let's bring it back to you, but maybe we should even stay with, at the consumer level. Look, the minister says, look, it's not a tariff increase, since, tariff will actually not go beyond what Band A is paying presently, which stands at around 209. I mean, really, how does all of this impact, the different sectors of the Nigerian economy and the market as a whole, especially consumers?
Mr. Elatuyi.
Mr. Elatuyi, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Can you repeat that question again?
As I'm saying what the minister is, the case that the minister is making is that, look, the increase is not going to go beyond the 209 naira that the Band A consumers actually pay presently. The whole idea is to close that gap between Band A and Band B. Is that not fair enough?
The essence is not to close the gap between Band A and Band B. That's not the essence. The real reason is because government cannot provide subsidy for those in Band B and Band C again. So because there's no enough provision for subsidy, it's not to close the gap. Yes, it's not going to go beyond 209 naira, which is currently what the tariff for Band A customer is. Yeah, whether it's fair enough is another debate entirely, because the poor and the vulnerable among us have to be provided lifeline energy. So Nigeria is a country with a huge energy access problem and issue. But the major issue now is that the cost-reflective tariff has to be paid, or the government bears the burden of subsidy. So with the provision of the Electricity Act that has given states regulatory autonomy to legislate on generation, transmission, and distribution. So the issue of tariff or subsidy should be the headache of the state governors now. But we've seen states that have that regulatory autonomy, they haven't gone further as regards that. So whether it's fair enough for Band A and Band B customers to pay the same tariff, I think is a policy question.
Great. Okay. The NLC president has been patient. You want to respond because I've been listening to you. Deep sighs. You want to react to that?
Yeah. Well, let me quickly ask him. Who decided whether Nigeria should apply cost-reflective tariff or service-reflective
Who are
tariff.
you asking now? Is it the minister?
No, the person that spoke. He was talking of cost-reflective tariff as a a model that best fits Nigeria.
Okay.
I'm coming, my brother. Let me debunk this.
Ajaero
At what point did government start subsidizing electricity? Is it before privatization? When it was NEPA, what was the amount that government was using to subsidize electricity? Or is it now that it is a private business that government is now spending 3 trillion? Now, what has government got to do with an individual's business for paying subsidy? Because these things you are saying you can't match it. And government is the people that told us that they privatize because government has no business in business. And then the same government is turning around to pay people subsidy.
And so unfortunately, we've heard from the government too that the DISCO is actually not investing in their, in their networks.
So we need to understand these dynamics that you played up here.
Okay, as an electricity market analyst, I think I can provide some insight into that. Right. So we need to deconstruct our tariff. So what constitutes the tariff we pay as Nigerians? So there is a generation component. That is what it costs to generate electricity. The first question you ask is that, are we generating at least cost? So, like I said, the wholesale electricity market price in Nigeria now stands at 112 naira. That is what it costs to generate electricity. If you look at our generation portfolio, it is dominated by open cycle gas turbine, which should not be we should not form bulk of our generation portfolio. So we're not generating at least cost. We have generation tariff. So you have CBN loan that was lent to the sector that has to be paid back. There's a portion of a tariff that goes into meter acquisition fund. So there's a portion of a tariff that is MOB, we call it MOB, that's for transmission and other admin expenses. Then we now have other for DISCOs. So if you look at how much it costs to generate electricity, our wholesale electricity price, like I said earlier, it is 112 naira. That is what it costs to generate electricity right now. So I think what we should be focusing on is that, can we deconstruct this tariff? How can we lower generation price? What sort of resources do we need to have in our generation portfolio?
Let's bring in Mr. Ajaero here very quickly, please, because we don't have that much time. Mr. Ajaero, you respond
you see the analysis is given.
Yeah.
I find it difficult because the entire power sector was privatized at 400 billion. That's what government sold it for. And then the same government is giving people 3 trillion. Now, if it was given to them as free, so to say, from what you can see now, now what determines the tariff and cost of generation? Now, has all these new investors built any new power station, or is it what we have before? Now, he was talking of, using gas to generate power. Why have we not gone green? Countries of the world have moved green. Now, you are mixing this cost. They are calculating, even whether it's generated by gas or it's generated by hydro.
Well, Mr. Ajaero, have you made any formal, observations or suggestions for the power sector in a way that it can actually make progress beyond this plan of yours now to go on a full-blown strike?
You may
not talk about that very quickly.
You may not understand. I have been in the power sector for over 20 years.
Right.
And he's saying he's a energy whatever.
Market analyst.
Market analyst, yes. Hey, but I'm an energy lawyer.
Right.
Now, get this clear. I worked with the Rwanda Lukman Power Sector Committee. In the Jonathan's Reform Committee. I served in all these committees, and the reports are there.
What are the key recommendations?
The key recommendations was you can't have availability. You can't have affordability without availability. You can't privatize 4,000 megawatts around the whole country, and then you expect to make more money on 4,000 megawatts. That there should be availability. And it was on the basis of that in 2005, over 25 companies, including Farm Electric, were licensed to generate electricity. And as we talk now, none of them is generating. So every tariff is on 4,000 megawatts.
Okay.
And how do you sustain it?
Great question, but very quick, let me ask you, because Nigerians are asking. We have seen the NLC, the TUC lead protest against tariff hikes, yet these tariffs continue to go up. What will be different with this protest? The minimum wage, you've talked about it, some states are still not paying, so they're wondering, has the labor unions really turned to dogs that, back and don't bite?
Well, that's the common analysis to the uninitiates. People who don't know left from right in labor will say this. The minimum wage is being paid. The one on telecom, and I want the state that is not paying, for us, and we follow it up. We must continue to follow them up until they are fully implemented. It's not just take it or leave it. In the telecom, now we are moving on it. There is a reduction from 50% to 35%. If it is not implemented, we follow it up. The tariff thing, we're on it now. Now, the doubting Thomases, who have not taken one tear gas in their lives, will continue to call us names. But we are not deterred. We are committed to this, and that is our job. We'll continue to do it until we achieve our aims.
What exactly is your aim now? What are you asking in 30 seconds? What are you asking?
Our aim is that even with 7,000 naira, 70,000 naira minimum wage, you can't survive this new tariff increase. Talk less of other increases that are coming up. Almost every sector, telecom, electricity, POS, they're increasing. Tax, so that is the situation. It's something that is not bearable any longer.
All right.
Mr. Joe Ajaero is the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress. He was joined on the news tonight by electricity market analyst Larry Elatuyi. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen, and we'll keep an eye on this conversation. Thank you.